Sonnet 124 by William Shakespeare. This sonnet obviously takes the form of a Shakespearean sonnet with 14 lines and 3 quatrains, structured as 3 quatrains and a couplet, which is the volta. Each of the quatrains in this sonnet is significant as it reinstates the love of the speaker and reinstates how powerful it is. So each quatrain adds on to the meaning of how the love is like. For the first quatrain, if my dear love were but the child of state, it might for fortune's bastard be unfathered, as subject to time's love or to time's hate, weeds among weeds, or flowers with flowers gathered. This sets the mood for the entire sonnet, because this means the first quatrain actually says that talking about how the love is not set by what the society dictates, and if it's can be easily changed by society, it will not work over time, as in line 3 it says, as subject to time's love or to time's hate. And the last line, weeds among weeds, or flowers with flowers gathered, means it will be insignificant if the love were to be the child of state, because weeds amongst weeds means like the weed is just as similar as the other weed, which means that it doesn't stand out from the group of weeds. Yes, and for the second quatrain, it's the idea of the love, how powerful the love is elaborated, as it says that it is independent from the changes in society, because the last line of the second quatrain says, where to inviting time our fashion calls, which is saying that it does not follow the fashion of that time. The third quatrain, it fears not policy that heretic, which works on leases of short-numbered hours, but all alone stands hugely politic, nor that it nor grows with heat, nor drowns with showers. And here it is saying that the love of the speaker is not swayed by society's judgments and conventions, as that will be short-lived, and so it's wholly independent from what the society is. So this is actually quite a powerful meaning, and that adds on to what the poem is trying to convey.
Sentence of the second last line, it states, to this eyewitness call the fools of time. It shows that he feels that those people who actually love under the policy are fools which abide by what they are told to do, and they are sinners. So the second line, they say, which die for goodness, who have lived for crime. It shows that he feels that those who actually loved according to the policy actually die without ever knowing what's the goodness of true love, because they have to refrain themselves from performing certain acts. So who have lived for crime, it shows that living the policy is like living a crime, because, and these two words are very contrasting words, especially policy and crime, because policy is supposed to be something positive and morally upright, but crime is the entire opposite. So what he feels is a strong opposite against the actual policy at the time. So these two lines shows the change. These two lines reaffirm his thoughts about unconventional love that has been denied by the upper classes and is not what the policy should state. Yes.
Next, about the elements of craft, we found out that there were recurring themes in the poem. For example, time and politics. Politics as in society and all the policies. So for time, in the third line of the sonnet, it says, as subject to time's love or to time's hate. It's actually making reference to time, and because as time passes, things change. So it's one of the themes in the sonnet. And also, in the final couplet, in the volta, it says, "To this witness I call the fools of time," which is kind of saying she's calling the fools who have followed the things that happen in the time, which, as mentioned earlier, reinstates the meaning of the poem. And the repeated use of time in this sonnet actually gives a continuity, and it also supports society, because society is actually changed with time, and society relates to politics as well, where it is also, politics is mentioned in the sonnet a couple of times. For example, uh, in the line 8, it says, "Where to inviting time of fashion calls." Fashion here is saying, like, for example, the conventions of the time which relate to politics. Yes, and in the third quatrain, the third line of the third quatrain, it says, "But all alone stands hugely politic." It means it's far away from policies and such. So the recurring use of the idea of politics uh, shows how powerful the love actually is, because politics is something that is very strong and it's difficult to escape from in the society, because it's very prevalent, and everyone is following. That's why it's a policy that is common. So the idea of time and politics used in this sonnet um, con- actually makes the message of the poem more impactful. Okay, and this, lastly, the second element of craft used in this poem is imagery. For example, in the first quatrain, the fourth line, it says, "Weeds among weeds, all flowers with flowers gathered." Uh, Firstly, if you take weeds among weeds, it means that one weed looks the same as the other, hence amongst a whole group of weeds, the weed will just look the same, so that's why it's insignificant and just not special or important in any way. And another way to see it is weeds among weeds, where it is weeds as in those weaker ones and not as desirable, while flowers with flowers could be referring to those which are more beautiful, and that could be related to the idea of love in this sonnet. And also, uh, in the first quatrain, on the second line, it says, "It might for fortune's bastard be unfathered." Fortune here, uh, since it's capitalized, it may be referring to Lady Fortune, which is a female. So um, it will be abandoned. It gives the image of, or the meaning of, love being abandoned, because it's unfathered and, well, it doesn't have a father. Yes. The effective use of imagery in this sonnet conveys the meaning of the sonnet in a way, because it actually makes the poem come to life, and uh, it really reaches out to the readers, as it leaves the reader to ponder about what the imagery actually means. So that makes the meaning of the poem more impactful and delivers the message more clearly to the audience after it's analyzed. Thank you.